Hi everyone, this is Arkady Frekhtman, a New York City personal injury trial attorney, and welcome to Last Week Tonight, where we answer your questions and we talk about your comments. So let's get into it. The number one question we have today is from a Yadi Ramirez, and she says, "Hi, I'm from California. I wrote to you about my case a few weeks ago. I was involved in a car crash. The other car was 100% at fault. I had an L5-S1 herniated disc with 5 months of therapy and 1 epidural injection. It's been 5 weeks since surgery, and I still feel the chronic pain on my low back with radiation and tingling to both legs down to my feet. I have told that to the doctor, and he said it's normal. I'm very frustrated. Is that normal? Thank you in advance." No, Yadi, I'm really sorry to hear that you're still having the pain even after the surgery. I think, I would listen to the doctor. I'm not, a doctor, I'm an attorney, so I don't want to give you medical advice, but I would listen to the doctor. If you feel like the doctor could be wrong or the pain isn't going away despite the passage of 5 weeks, maybe if a few more weeks pass, like 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and you're still having that radiating pain traveling down to the legs, even after the surgery, then I would maybe get a second opinion, go to another doctor in the area and do a consultation with him or her and see what another doctor says. Because, after a surgery, people do have pain. That's normal, but it should go away. So, but I'm wishing you all the best. Hopefully everything gets better. And hopefully everything gets better. So that's more of a medical question. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. We have here a lot of thank yous. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're very welcome. That's what we're here for. Thank you for help during this stressful time. And then Thomas says, "Love this guy." And Ricky says, "Me too. He's like my therapist, lawyer, and teacher all in one." Oh wow, thank you so much. Yeah, I try to be as helpful as I can. Read everyone's questions and just give my honest opinion on it. And maybe we'll do a few more of these Last Week Tonight's live. That way you guys could comment, and if I need a little more information, you could write it into the comments and I can answer it live. That might be better, because that way I have all the information and we can have more interaction during the session. Maybe I could schedule one for like next week, maybe like on a Thursday or on a Wednesday. We'll try to do it one afternoon when people are available, maybe like 5 p.m. or whenever. We can do a poll, and whenever people want, I'll try to make myself available. Okay, let's see what else. Joe says, "I have a settlement conference next month. Wish me luck. Best of luck. Go get full justice. I hope you get the best settlement possible." And then Miss Chambers or Mr. Chambers says, "Can't thank you enough for choosing and answering my question. Much appreciated." Yeah, absolutely. You were very welcome. Oh, here's a question from Spartan. Spartan2 Supernova. He or she says, "In April 1st, 2022, I was hit in the rear by a commercial truck that totaled my wife's car. I was injured and had severe concussion, and the ER said it sent me in a seizure. The driver drove off but walked back to the scene of the accident. He was arrested, and I have a long-term injury to my neck. I'm represented by an attorney. How does my case look?" It sounds like definitely a good case. Oh, and he gave a little bit more information. He said it happened in Virginia. It caused a herniated disc, and he's having neurological issues. His primary doctor, and he's seeing a neurologist, and he said he needs long-term treatment, and he's going to have an appointment. So yeah, it sounds like a strong case. The fact that you got hit in the rear, first of all, is meaning liability should be 100% against that truck that rear-ended you. It's not your fault. The fact that your car is totaled, so you have serious property damage, total loss, so it's a serious crash. So really, I think that this case comes down to the injuries. Now, the concussion, I would get treatment with a neurologist, maybe do some neuroimaging, whatever the doctors think, neuropsychology, because if that turns into like a mild traumatic brain injury, if you still have symptoms from that concussion, that could be big right there. And then also the herniated disc. We'll get treatment for that depending on what you end up needing. If it ends up being like pain management, epidural injections, percutaneous discectomy, or perhaps even a full-blown surgery, then it could turn into $1 million case. And of course, always find out what the policy is on that truck. You have to send a letter and get the full insurance information, including any excess. So we have the full insurance information on that truck that hit you. So good luck with that case, but that sounds like a very good case. Let's see what else we have. Here's a question. How do you know what their policy limits are when they are hesitant to tell you? Well, yeah, so policy limits, it's pretty straightforward to get. But what you do is, in New York anyway, you send a letter and there's an insurance law. I believe it's 4520F. So it goes right into our initial letter of representation where we say, hey, how are you? We have been retained to represent Mr. John Doe or Mrs. Jane Doe client. Please be advised that we're representing her. Send us, open up a claim. Just our initial letter of rep, we put in there that give us the insurance information. Now, if they don't give it to you, that's like in a car accident case. Some other cases where they don't give it to you, like if it's a trip and fall or some other type of case, you have to file a lawsuit. And in the lawsuit, they will usually tell you. I mean, you could send a letter, but they don't have to tell you. Like if you're suing, let's say, like a building, right? And then the landlord of the building could just be like, okay, I got your letter, but I don't care. I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. You can't force them to tell you. But when you file a lawsuit, they have to tell you. Because there's no way around it. The judge will order them. And I believe now you don't even have to ask for it. It's just by law. They have to tell you the full insurance information, including any excess or umbrella policies, whatever policies are applicable to the case. I think it's a new rule in New York where they just have to tell you. It goes like pre-printed right into the court order. So you don't even have to ask for it anymore. But I always make sure to ask for it anyway, because I've done other videos where I've had situations where, they've told me, hey, it's $1 million policy. And then later I find out, wait a minute, there's $1 million, but there's also like 20 million in excess that they didn't tell me about. So I want to make sure that I find out and get it in writing and get affidavits of search and, make sure that there's no other coverages. So yeah, that's usually the best way to do it. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. We have a lot of comments. Thank you for sharing, LOL. Time to make more excellent videos. Yeah, absolutely. Try to make a few more. Maybe I'll do a few more on verdicts. I think everyone liked those. We did one on traumatic brain injury verdicts, spinal fusion verdicts. I believe we did open reduction internal fixation. We did bimalleolar ankle fractures. Maybe we'll do another one on another type of injury. Let us know what other injuries you'd want to see or what other types of cases you want to see. Sometimes you may want to see a case about, like, say, trucking, right? Only truck crashes or only construction or only, like slip and falls or whatever. And then we could do it about a type of case or a type of injury because we could search the system and find out some interesting cases and talk about them. Okay. And then Ricky is talking about our video where we talk about personal injury lawsuit funding from the client's perspective. And he says, thank gosh, I worked hard all my recent years. I have some capital, so I don't need loans. And everything I own is paid off. Although I was waiting until housing dropped a bit before I purchased a home. Now I live in a townhome, which is okay. But waiting and having patience pays off on many things. It's also wise to invest, which I have done, so I can make money off my money to pay my bills, rent, etc. Getting a loan is a super bad idea if you can help it. Yeah, I would agree. Like, funding is always the last resort. It's really like, you don't want to get it, especially with lawsuit funding, because they take a lot of interest. But if you have to, you could take a small amount. Like if you take like $1,000, the most you usually have to pay back is like $200 or $2,500, which is still like crazy interest because it's almost triple, right? But if you really need it, but I don't like the cases where I've had some cases. I don't really have any right now, but I've had some in the past where clients have taken a lot, like they're taking like $100,000 and they have to pay back like $300,000. And then it really eats into their case and then you feel bad as a lawyer because look, even if I get you $1 million, well, now let's say a third goes to us as your lawyer, right? So instead of giving you $700, you're only getting half of that because you owe like $300, $350 to some funding company because you borrowed $120 and now you owe like $340, $350. Even if they cap it double, you're not getting all the money, you know, that you're entitled to. You're giving half your money away. So I think like most companies are ethical and they have underwriters, and what they do is they're okay with, you know, being at 10%, maybe even 20% of your net, you know, take-home pay, client's net take-home pay, but they don't want to be much higher than that. They don't want to really dip into your pocket and take half your money or more, because then what's the point, you know, it gets crazy. Okay. And then we have another question here from Camilla. She says, hey, thank you for the information. What do you think of an older woman crossing the street that gets hit by a car? No broken bones, however, left with pain and limit of movement. Couldn't go back to work. They offered a settlement, but it seems like a joke. When there are no broken bones, the individual gets offered peanuts. But what happens to the quality of life when one can't work anymore? Shouldn't people be compensated fairly for that? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like a broken bone is only one type of injury. Oftentimes, you can even get more if you have a serious injury that requires treatment and medical care, even when you don't have a broken bone. For example, if you have, let's say, a herniated disc, but then you end up getting like a discectomy for it, like an injection, or you need a surgery for it, that could be worth way more than if you just had like a broken, you know, metatarsal fracture in your foot. Just a broken bone like that might only be worth like $30,000 or $40,000, whereas a herniated disc with a percutaneous discectomy could be worth $500,000. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a broken bone. So it could definitely be much more. So feel free to text us. You know, happy to do a consult. I think this person did text me, so I'll give you a call and we could discuss it. Absolutely. Okay, let's see what else we have. Circumnavigate says, he's talking about a video, another Last Week Tonight video, where he says, you said if you have herniated discs, never had anything prior, have a TBI and had a fusion, that can be a high 6-figure, possibly 7-figure case. But then at 21 minutes, for an MTBI, post-concussive syndrome, you said they should pay the $1 million policy. And I guess he's saying, why is there a difference in that? I mean, yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I meant to say that one is worth more than the other. Remember, like when I'm commenting, I'm really talking about limited information. It's whatever's in the comment. So it's kind of like whatever I'm thinking at the time. So don't take it literally to mean that that's my opinion about the case. The only way I could really form an opinion about any type of case would be to review the full case file, to meet with the client. You know, that's what I like to do. Otherwise, you know, it's just really a shot in the dark. It's more like a advice, you know, but it's not. Don't take it to be like what I think the case is worth. But definitely, I think you're right. The other case could be worth much more. I could have said that also because of the policy limits. Maybe one of them was talking about it was a limited policy. I don't know if the policy limits were mentioned. But yeah, actually, we just have to examine the actual injuries. Because just saying TBI, right, you can't really compare. Somebody says TBI, somebody else says MTBI, but we don't know what the actual diagnoses are, right? We don't know, does one have an MRI with some positive findings? Does the other one have like a diffuse tensor imaging? Does one have a neuropsych report? You know, the MTBI could end up being more serious than the TBI. Just saying TBI is just so broad. It's like saying back injury, right? Like, what is the back injury? So we have to really dive deeper. Plus, it depends on so many other factors, like the way the person presents themselves, the venue, the lawyer. So it's really not an exact science. So I don't want anyone to think that to hold those kind of you know, valuations to heart. Okay. And then Mark Jason says, hello, do you work with chiropractors? I'm about to graduate and I plan to focus on personal injury cases. Do you have any tips for me as a healthcare provider? Yeah, absolutely. We do work with chiropractors. In fact, we work with some chiropractors that own their own offices, because what happens is a lot of chiropractors, you know, own an office and they'll treat patients who have gotten into car accidents. So we'll work with them. They'll like send patients to us. Maybe if we have a patient and, you know, the person lives close to them, it's convenient, I'll send patients to them. So we work with chiropractors in many different contexts. Some chiropractors, like I said, own their own offices. So they're like entrepreneurs or business people. Other chiropractors work in a physical therapy office. So I'm very familiar with chiropractors. In fact, I go to a chiropractor sometimes myself. It's helpful. They can do a little, you know, adjustment. It's very helpful. You feel better. Since I sit around a lot, you know, try to go to the gym sometimes, but a chiropractor definitely helps. So yeah, I like chiropractors. What I would recommend is I would just say, you know, do the best. If you're passionate about it, if you enjoy helping people, if you enjoy that, you want to be a chiropractor, just do what's best for your patients as a healthcare provider, and you can't go wrong. And if you need any advice about being successful as a chiropractor or getting patients, just let me know. Maybe I could help you out. I actually know a guy who's a former chiropractor, and he has a business where he helps chiropractors get leads, kind of like lawyers need leads. Like if I needed cases, I would maybe go to some marketing person, they would help me get cases. So this guy helps chiropractors. And I think he has a whole course set up like on LinkedIn and all these different things. So if you need introduction, he's a nice guy. I think he's in Georgia. Just made me think of him. I met him in person, and I also did a few Zoom calls with him. So yeah, so maybe he could help out if you needed that help. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. Freddie says, I have a herniated disc at the lumbar L4, L5, and L5S1. How much is it worth? But I am waiting for a surgery, spine, lumbar, work injury. Yeah, I mean, that should definitely be worth a significant amount, especially with the surgery. The surgery will really, sometimes the surgery can make it worth much more exponentially, like, you know, because when they just look at a case like a herniated disc, it's a very typical case. A lot of people have herniated discs. So a lot of it will depend on the policy limits. So it depends on who you're suing. Now, this applies to third-party lawsuits where you have a work injury, but you're suing a third party. I'm not too familiar with workers' comp, like pure workers' comp. That's different. That's more like they just pay your medical bills and your lost wages. So that's a little different. But if you have a work injury and you're suing someone like a construction site injury, then, you know, if you just have a herniated disc, it's going to be smaller. They might pay like $50,000. They might even pay less than that, right? Even if you say, hey, I have a need for surgery, they might go up a little. But if you have the actual surgery, it'll go up much, much more, maybe even into the millions. So it's always more with surgery. Let's see what else we have. Circumnavigate again says, what do you think the following case should settle for before taking a chance at trial for more? 3 herniated lumbar discs and 2 herniated cervical discs. Had an upper back injury in the past, but not lower back. 2 steroid injections, 1 spinal cord injection, PT, sciatica, and still some pain. Mild TBI with post-concussion syndrome, had a pre-existing TBI before the accident, made significantly worse, and many new medications as a result, plus a short-term memory loss. Issues confirmed by neuropsych, neurologist confirmed post-concussion syndrome. Current medical expenses, $120,000, future medical, more than $200,000. 100% liability proven by dash cam on the defendant, who has since fled to a third world country and is unreachable. How will this affect the case? He was driving for Uber at the time en route to pick up a passenger, so the 1 million policy was active. This accident happened in Los Angeles. Please let me know if there's any more info I can provide to get an accurate estimate. Thank you. Yeah, and he says that it's in Los Angeles. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's hard for me to say exactly, like, you know, how much it's going to be, but I would say definitely has potential because, look, you have a lot of medical expenses. You're talking about $300,000 just in expenses. You have a serious injury, and then if you end up being able to prove the TBI, plus, you know, making the prior TBI worse, that you know, the fact that you already had a TBI, but now it's made worse, depending on how worse and what the exact diagnosis is, that could be a really, really significant. And then you also have these herniated discs in the neck and in the lower back. So yeah, definitely it could be very, very big. I would say it could definitely be $1 million. It could definitely be perhaps more. Find out if there's more than $1 million, because Uber sometimes has layers. And if you need any kind of second opinion from a Los Angeles local attorney, just let me know. I know a lot of excellent lawyers in Los Angeles, so I could recommend someone for you if you need a second opinion. But yeah, it sounds like you're in good shape. It should be a very, very strong case. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have. A lot of comments about great explanation, comments about not being able to imagine how bad some injuries are. I think there was a video about degloving injuries. Yeah, that's really a terrible injury when the skin comes off. That's just one of the worst injuries anyone could get. And then here's a comment about how much is my brain injury TBI lawsuit worth video. And someone says, I think insurance companies should be held accountable, especially if they are saying the person is faking it or not hurt when there is clearly permanent damage. I don't know if I would be able to hold my cool in trial at that. Poor guy went through the ringer in that case. Yeah, I mean, basically, he's right. Like, in a way, it's not fair, right? Because an insurance company can call you a faker, call you a malingerer, and then there's not really any repercussions to them, right? They can call you a liar, but then how are they being held accountable? The only way they're being held accountable is if you show, hey, I'm not a liar. This really happened to me. It's just an unfortunate, it was negligence. And I'm just looking for civil justice, and I have this permanent, life-changing, forever injury. So if the jury believes that, then they're going to compensate me, and they're going to allow for millions and millions of dollars. So that's going to hold the defendant accountable. But otherwise, there's no other way, right? Even if they have no evidence, they can just go ahead and point the finger and call you this faker and say that you're not really hurt, that it's from something else, that it's from living your life. And there's not really any recourse. So that's kind of unfair because you're not really doing the same thing to them, right? You're not saying, hey, the insurance company is some kind of fraud. You're just basically presenting your case, but you're never, calling them a fraud. If you were to say, hey, the insurance company is a fraud, the insurance company is a faker, they are, taking premiums from people, but then when it comes to actually pay on legitimate claims, they're not paying it. What kind of accountability is there against them? So that's a good point that, it's almost like a different standard that they could do whatever they want, but then the injured person really can't. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. I think we're pretty much up to date now. We have Ms. Mills says, #1 lawyer for sure. Thank you so much. And then Ricky says, beyond #1, in my opinion, not many lawyers like this one for damn sure. That actually takes the time to not only teach us different things in a scary situation, but very, very caring, even if not taking your case. This guy is a godsend, and that is why he is so successful. Oh, thank you so much. No, I really appreciate that. That's really nice to hear that people are being helped, that I'm able to help people. That's what it's all about. And then someone says, do you handle cases in Florida? Yeah, absolutely. We can partner with local counsel in Florida. That's not a problem. Absolutely, I can. I can't do it myself because I'm licensed in New York only. I mean, I'm also licensed in Texas, but I'm not really active there. So mostly I'm working in New York, but I can partner with a Florida lawyer. And I know a lot of excellent Florida lawyers in, I think the area around Miami, as well as the other side near, like, say, Sarasota, Tampa. So I know lawyers all over Florida that are really good. And also, it depends on what type of lawyer you're looking for, right? If you're looking for a trucking lawyer, I know some lawyers in Florida that specialize in trucking, so it really depends on the type of case. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of nice comments. Someone says, you're really get into trials and strategic. Oh, they're talking about the video I did where we talked about key moments in personal injury trials in last year. That was from CVN, the Courtroom View Network. They showed clips of like 2-3 minutes to check out that video. I thought that was a really interesting video because they had different trials. Some are won by the plaintiff and there were big verdicts like 27 million, 33 million, 75 million, and others were for the defense. There were big injuries, but they were lost. Some cases do get lost. And so they had the key moments and why the case swayed either one way toward the plaintiff or the other way toward the defense. And there was nice analysis there. So I kind of played some of the videos and gave some comments about them. So I could do a few more of those if I see anything interesting. Usually the trials are also available. Some of the trials are available, like once the verdict is reached. But the trials are long, they're the actual trial. So you'd have to sit there for like, a week and watch the whole trial, which is, obviously something very, very difficult to do if you're working, if you have other commitments. But this was interesting because they already curated it for you, and they gave you like little 3-minute bite-sized version of what they thought was important. And then Araf says they need to have one of your trials on CBN. Yeah, that would be really cool. I would love that. I would love to. I don't think they're doing New York too often. I think they did one case in New York. It was like a mass tort. Maybe it was one of the bellwether trials. But otherwise, for some reason, they don't really allow cameras in the courtroom in New York. Maybe that'll change. A lot of things are changing. They're changing the wrongful death law in New York now to allow for like emotional harm, because before it was only like the pecuniary monetary loss, which is very, very old school. That's like from the 1800s. So they're changing that. I think we're one of the only states in America where that's still the rule. So they're changing that. And the governor is about to sign that rule. So that'll be good. And then, you know, hopefully along with that, they do other things like cameras in the courtroom and other innovations, because everything's changing. So we have to follow along. You know, we can't be left in the ash heap of history. Okay, and then James Line Bullies. This is the final question for today. He says, I love your videos. I have a criminal background. Will that hurt my credibility? I'm in a civil lawsuit with a trucking company that hit me and my girlfriend. I have changed my life around in the last 5 years. Will that affect my case? The felony is from 2012. Thank you for your helpful videos. Yeah, so I mean, like, I wouldn't really like worry about it necessarily. Like, it is what it is. You had a felony back in 2012, so it's over a decade old. I think the important thing is, you know, whether or not that's going to come into evidence is something you have to ask your attorney, because it could be state specific. A lot of times, if it's a crime of moral turpitude, it does get into evidence. And a lot of the time, convictions, if you pled guilty or were convicted after a trial, that can come into evidence against you. But you know, you basically just have to, if the case is going to be settled, then it may not really matter too much, because, you know, the adjuster may know about it. They do searches, but I don't think they're going to offer you a lot less for the fact that you had one conviction. What you could also do is, if the case goes to trial, I would make sure that your attorney does a thorough voir dire in the jury selection and brings that up and just is open and honest about it and says, look, my client had a history. A lot of people have history. They were convicted of a crime. Would you hold that against them? Would that affect your ability to fairly allow for damages and allow for monetary compensation? The fact that he had this conviction for whatever crime, you know, back in like over a decade ago, are you still going to punish him for that? Because, you know, he already had to pay his debt to society by either serving jail time, prison time, by being on parole, by paying restitution, whatever the punishment was. So he paid his debt to society, and now he's a new person. He's turned his life around. He's been completely, you know, clean. Are you still going to hold that against him? Some people may say, yeah, you know, I would, because you made that mistake and I can't put it outside of my mind. And I wouldn't give the same amount. Like, if he was somebody who was just a person who has never been convicted of anything, and then you have this person who has this conviction, even if it's over a decade old, I would treat them differently, right? I would give one more than the other. I would give the person without a conviction more. So then you want to show that those jurors can't be fair to you, and you can get them off probably for cause, you know? But yeah, there's a lot of ways to ask the question. There's a lot of different lawyers in the CLEs that I've done have a lot of different information about that. But I think the point is that you should kind of, you know, get that across to the jurors that, you know, look, you paid your debt to society, you were punished, however you were punished, it's over, and there's no real reason to keep punishing you. It's not like, you know, you're going to wear like that scarlet letter on your chest for the rest of your life, right? Where they keep punishing you forever. It happened, it's over, you learned from it, you grew, you're a different person now, you moved on, and so they should just evaluate the injury, evaluate what this truck crash has done to your life, and give you fair compensation, just like they would somebody who didn't have a criminal conviction. They shouldn't really keep that in the back of their mind. And if they are going to, then they are not fair and impartial jurors. So yeah, I would make that argument, and I would just, but in jury selection, I would just ask them, how do you feel about that? I would get them talking. I wouldn't really talk too much. I would just ask a few of those questions. And then whatever the jurors say, as a lawyer, I would just be thankful for them, because they're just people that are, forced to be there, that are just our neighbors and people from the community. So whatever they say is fine, and I would just thank them, and I would just be sincere. I wouldn't argue with them. I wouldn't say like, oh, but you're going to hold that against him. Just be very thankful for them, and just I think that's the best way to go. And then you should be fine. I wouldn't really worry about it. I don't think that's good. That should hurt you. Now, if somebody is like a repeat offender, over and over again, then they could think, oh, this guy's a fraudster or whatever. That's different. But if you had like one particular conviction, and like you said, you changed your life around, that's actually a good. I would actually use that, the fact that you changed your life around. I would sit down with your lawyer, and I would do a whole biography to show how you overcame obstacles. Because I always like to tell the try story, right? The hope story, the story that makes you feel good is the story of the future, the story of trying, getting better, changing your life, having these obstacles like a criminal conviction, but overcoming it, right? Which a lot of people don't do. It's very difficult to overcome. So that's the story I would tell, right? So I think that would be very helpful. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Please like and subscribe to our channel. If we gave you a consult and you want to write us a quick review, we have a link there. You could write us a quick review, say a few kind words about us. That helps us in the local space, because we have offices in New York City, be more visible, so we can get clients locally in Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, all over New York City. And then, if you have any questions, just like and subscribe to our channel, and also drop the comments here so we can do more videos answering your FAQs. And like I said, we'll probably do one live coming up, which is going to be really exciting. Okay, thank you so much. We are here for you, and have a great day. Okay, bye-bye.